Watching the Wednesday Night Hump live here from Amsterdam, 11 p.m. Central European Time. It is here, wherever you're at, be it in the morning, afternoon, or evening. I want to say welcome to you. Um, I always start out by thanking you for taking your time to watch. Time is a very valuable thing, and for you to spend a little bit of yours with me is something that's greatly appreciated. So thank you for that. Welcome. Hope you guys have had yourselves a good week so far. As we wait here for more people to come into the live stream, I will warm up a bit as I do. Um, well, got a lot of stuff coming in, but no signs of it yet. Ben Allmark. Hey, Mike. Hey to yourself. How you doing, Ben? Got a lot of stuff coming in, Ben, but none of it's showing up to my doorstep yet. Oh gosh. I hate that. I hate that knowing, waiting, but you gotta be patient. If anything about getting older, you learn is patience is a wonderful thing. But still, it's like I got guitars at the shop that I'd like to get in. I've got a little mini amp that I'm interested. I'm thinking about sitting right here so that during some of these live streams, I can plug the guitars in and actually play them so you can hear what they sound like. I thought that would be kind of cool. Just stuff like that. Plus, I've never had an amp that small before, so I'm interested to hear what the sound quality of that thing is. But anyway, it's on its way. Uh, I had a conversation with Three Chord Dave. If you guys remember, I did a interview with Three Chord Dave, Three Chord Dave channel. Check it out. Good friend of this channel's and of this channel, and I was wondering, when he was going to air it. As it turns out, there was a little bit of a sound error with that, so something wrong with the sound recording. And he wrote to me and said, "Hey, can we do it again? Do you mind?" And I said, "Of course not." Actually, it's kind of good because some time has passed between now and that first one, and certainly a lot of things have happened that I can talk about. You can ask me about. We can discuss. So that is going to happen tomorrow. So we're going to try again tomorrow, and that's going to be interesting. Can't wait to do that with Dave. Always a pleasure. We'll get the sound right this time so you guys can check it out. And then I'll let you know. He'll let me know when he's going to post it. I'm sure sooner than later. All right. Well, I'm going to start into the subject. Another argument for buying 20-year-old gear. You know, I spend a great deal of my time looking at the used gear market. And I think that really, realistically, let me make some adjustments to my light here. I can see myself. Not just that. There's some other things I need to. Hey there, Frederick. How you doing? Yeah, things are looking a little not great tonight. I should have cleaned my lens. I think eating a peanut butter sandwich before going live was not a good idea for the film quality, the video quality today. That's all right. Um, I'm looking at myself here on the screen. Maybe a little blurriness might improve to my looks. But I'm sorry. It's just I'm looking at myself here. I'm like, why does everything look like I'm in a smoky room? And I realize it's my camera lens there. That's all right. It's good enough. It'll do. You can see me. You can hear me. It will do. Yeah, another argument for buying 20-year-old gear. I spent a lot of my time in the used gear market in Asia on the internet searching, and I have a guy on the ground as well there, and he's also searching for stuff in small shops in Osaka, Kansai area. And I'm getting a pretty good feel for older instruments as well as newer ones. And I see a lot of pictures, as you can imagine, of a lot of guitars every day. And because it really is my goal to try to import and document as many of the 70s and 80s, some of the 90s Japanese guitars that I can. And really then get them into the hands of people who appreciate them. So through that goal, it is part of what I do to look at a lot of guitars. And one thing that I am noticing, and not just them through, and these are my observations, obviously, but through things other people are saying that I pick up on when you cruise the internet, especially on the forums, guitar forums, about the quality of modern production. We all know here though Gibsons, are crap. Then there's a problem with the binding. There's a problem with the paint. There's a problem with this, that, and the other. And all these things are true. A lot of guitars have come out of the Gibson factory that weren't quite ready yet. But this goes across the board to a lot of manufacturers, and not just guitars, pedals as well. Knobs falling off. You get one, and maybe there's a short in it, so you got to send it back, and you got to get another one of it. You know, and really didn't think about it too much uh, until I kind of put it in the context of the older guitars that I've been looking at, and spending time with and sharing with you guys when they come in. I have one here next to me. This, which I'm going to get my rag here and hopefully not knock anything over. I'm going to take some of the dust off. Shine it up a little bit for you before I put it on camera. Oh gosh, boy, this is a dusty house. If it's not in its case, it's going to get dusty. This is a 1998 Epiphone. This is the 56 Pro, the 56 P90 Pro. So 1998, 26 years old. And really, one of the things that attracted me to buying this, first, the things that were wrong. The first thing that wrong was when I bought it, there was a lot of things missing. The pick guard is missing. They had the decency to leave the screws, but the pick guard was missing. The switch knob was missing. And also, you can see here they've taken the truss rod cover, which said 56 P90 Pro. The reason why they took those to strip these things off this guitar is because as an individual seller, you can make money stripping the guitar like this. Excuse me, sorry guys. You can make money off of taking those parts, and the reason is that they're not standard Epiphone parts. The Korean Epiphone parts, the Japanese Epiphone parts, and the Chinese Epiphone parts don't always match up with each other. And a standard Epiphone pick guard would not fit this guitar, nor would a standard switch knob fit this. This is different. I happen in my little, knickknack box here, happen to have a Korean switch that fits, so I was able to put that on. That's from the same time period, so no big loss there. I was able to replace that. And Fern is actually bought a machine that he can cut out the truss rod cover and also the pick guard cover from a blank that he has to totally restore the guitar. So, you know, uh, Other than that, it had no scratches at all. You can see completely clean, no neck breaks, no dings in the neck, and it's perfect. It just got stripped of those parts, and I'm going through the process of cheaply replacing those. But one of the things that I remark about this 26-year-old guitar, that's why I said another argument for buying 20 plus year old guitars, well, this certainly falls in that category, is the quality. This is a 26-year-old guitar and it's all original. It never had an issue with its pots, never had an issue with um, its pickups in that time. This guitar is amazing, and since these tuners, I wouldn't take these off for the world because this guitar keeps in tune. I can tune it up on my tuner, set it down for a couple of days, come back to it, and it's still in tune. Okay, that's always a great sign of quality. Put this back here, and so you know the build quality that I've seen, that I'm experiencing of these older guitars versus the newer ones that I'm buying, and also in the quality of the materials as well, you can see a downward trajectory. And I think we got to the point in our lives where we, as consumers, and this is not just in guitars, this is in a lot of things. I think you could extend this out to cars. Look at how a 60s or 50s or 60s car in terms of design, style, and materials were made. Yeah, they didn't have seat belts, but as opposed to a modern one, cheaper. If you crash a modern car, if you got airbags, great. But the older ones, you kind of had a lot of metal between you. They were built like tanks, just like the Boss pedals that I was talking about in the last live stream. Getting back to music gear, built like tanks. Those things, again, you can buy them second hand, third hand, fourth hand, and they'll still, keep going for you for the most part. But other pedals, other things have gotten cheaper. Knobs falling off, this, that, or the other. Um, Problems with power supplies, just a lot of things that I read about, I hear about. And we got to the point as consumers where we said, good enough is good. Good enough is good enough. In other words, yeah, we know that those Les Pauls, there's a chance we're going to get it home, it's going to have an issue, or when it comes in the mail, it may have an issue, but it's good enough, and I can send it back. In other words, we accepted that. We accepted that. We said, hey, that's okay. We can live with that. you know, is it we'll roll the dice there and hope that we'll get a good one coming in the mail because again, we buy things through the mail now. We don't go to the stores anymore. Just ask the employees at Sam Ash. Oh yeah, that's right, you can't because they aren't there anymore because nobody went. The build quality has diminished. The pots, like everything, like I said, on this 1998, made at the Simic factory, which is known for good quality, out of Korea, has stood the test of time on its way to 3 decades. And a lot of the earlier pedals, the vintage pedals now from the 60s and 70s that are around, the reason that they're still around was the build quality of them. I had an EP3 here from 1975, and that thing worked like a charm. I used it for recordings. And as delicate as a creation that is, that thing still was working great. The tape heads worked well. It was the Echoplex. It was great. Built to last is what I'm saying. Is that standard of quality no longer really exists. It is the goal of most manufacturers to eke out the most profit while contributing the least to the to the product in terms of cost. So there's that. Maximum profit, mama product, so product. And in some cases, like Gibson's writing on a brand name in order to smooth out those inconsistencies in manufacturing. And we've all stood back and we've all said, good enough is good enough. We all suffer from our collective non commitment to excellence, someone wrote. And I agree. We now suffer from our collective non commitment or committal to excellence. And this is true. And so um, it is it is interesting to me that we see these price increases in stuff, the guitars, the pedals, the amps, but the manufacturing quality certainly, not in every case, but there are certainly examples across the board of it not being so great as it used to be. And because I'm an advocate of trying to reduce the amount of new guitars produced, because again there is a vast amount of waste that is involved in and also the ecology of it. Three semi truck fulls of wood per shift per day in some of these factories. I've told you that stat a lot. I want you guys to really understand that one. Those that have heard me say that 1,000 times, I really want you to really understand that. That's, and there's three shifts, sometimes four shifts. Okay, that's a lot of wood, and this turnover, and us as consumers saying good enough is good enough has led to the point where they're shooting this stuff out of the factory, and it's not even doing, in some cases it's just they're terrible guitars, being produced. It's not even doing the wood, any honor. It's not even honoring the wood. It's just basically turning it into firewood. We could have used the tree, not the firewood person necessarily. Um, and older guitars are plenty out there. There's plentiful out there. Right now, I could recommend three guitars that have the same or better attributes made in Japan than the new inspired by Gibson line out of Epiphone. Uh, Across the board, any of their models, because again, in the used market, especially in the 70s and 80s in Japan, all those models were being produced anyway. I saw a 175 by Greco today. That was the most beautiful natural wood. It was the most beautiful 175 I've ever seen, with the Gibson 175, headstock on it. Everything was made exactly. If you bought a proper 175 from the 60s, this one was an exact copy of it from the 70s. Greco. And at a fraction of the cost of a Gibson 175. It was a better quality, better looking, and I very rarely say that, but in the case of this 175, I would put it. This is one of those. Other than the pickup swap, and I can't even say that. I'd have to hear the pickups to judge it, but I would put this one against a Gibson 175, even in a class of its own, and for a fraction of the cost. And so again, just again, I have what I call my gardening thoughts when I'm out in the garden, and I'm either watering the garden or I'm pulling weeds or doing something. I'm into growing watermelon this year. I'm determined. I got some the first year I started my garden, a little itty bitty one, and I was encouraged by that because when I was living in Singapore, I couldn't grow anything. It's very difficult to grow things outside at the equator, actually, like tomatoes and things like that. They don't take. But uh, I am out there gardening and I'm having thoughts, and this is one of the ones that came to me: is just talking about you guys to you guys last week or last live stream about pedals and the plethora of pedals that are available out there. I saw another video, again, a guitar show, and again, an astounding sea of pedals on some tables there. And it got me into the mindset of, again, giving arguments when I can think of them and peppering them in, smattering them into conversations here on the live stream when I can for why you should consider it as well. Um, Stop looking, at the new ones necessarily. Don't be dazzled by the marketing of it's a new thing, therefore it must be better, which is, a fallacy in itself. So that's the first thing. Um, and if you can get out of that and start looking around. Now, a lot of people are, of course, have concerns about purchasing things from overseas. And I understand that, especially if you've never done it. It can be a very nervous thing when you're talking about five, six, $700. But I can say for certainly that buying gear from Japan from a reputable Japanese dealer can't do the small websites that I do because those things, like I said, even in those sites, I've got to be very careful. Having a reverb store really taught me the ins and outs of scams and things that can be had on these kind of websites. And plus, they're in Japanese anyway, so point is moved on anyway. But a reputable Japanese site that has English translations, which most of them do, um, Rock 10, for example, might be a good example. You can go to them and you can order with confidence. They will get it to you and they will pack it. And trust me, UPS in the States or our PostNL over here can drop it down an elevator shaft. And the way that they pack it, guarantee it'll survive. Hopefully, they won't literally do that, but they've been known to. So, I would get over that fear. And I think getting over that fear will open up a world of opportunities for you to get some great instruments, even still at great prices. Like I said, there are some Greco strats out there, um, like, uh, wrote them down, the SE 600, the SE 550, the SE 550, that were made by the same factory that a few years later started producing the Fender Strats, the Fender Japan Strats. So the reason they got that gig is because Fender said, "Hey, you guys are making better ones than us anyway. Might as well just stick a Fender on the head, a name logo on the headstock, and roll with that." And they did, and do so to this day. But these Grecos were the precursors to those. And so there are models like some of the ones that I've named there that can be had for a song steel. And you're getting a Fender, as good as any Fender built today. Honestly, I'm not exaggerating. Strats, Strat, with some of these models, like the ones that I just mentioned, um, again, at a fraction of the price. Seamus in the house, Mr. O'Brien. How you doing, sir? I am so glad you showed up. It has been a minute. Well, I've been all right. I hope you've been all right yourself. Been well. It is good to see you. I am in the mindset, I guess. Um, Anthony Thornhill, Mr. Thornhill, how are you doing, sir? Welcome. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Everybody's starting to show up. Thanks, guys, for showing up. Um, it really is good to see all of you and hear from you. But you've got to, if you can overcome that fear and look. I think that you'd be doing yourself a favor. I really am going to every now and then. I'm not going to push it too much, but I will have live stream conversations about this subject because another argument for buying a 20-plus-year-old guitar is, as many arguments as I can present to you. I hope to try to encourage you to go down that route instead of your first thought is what's I'm looking for such and such. Let me look in the used market, and even more specific, let me look in markets outside of the territories I live in. We live in a global market, and so it is a global marketplace. And because it's a global marketplace, you have options, and you have more options of choice. And because of currencies, you may have yourself a discount going that you may not be aware of. That because currencies fluctuate, you better take advantage of while you can. That's all I'm going to say is that right now, the yen being where it is, I would highly recommend to you if you are going to buy Japanese, this would be the time where you're going to get a bargain, just in the sense because of the exchange rate. Something to think about too. But we all now suffer from our collective non-committal to excellence, and I don't have an argument to convince you to demand excellence other than by voting with your wallet and saying, well, you used to make them nice, so I'll tell you what, I'm going to hang out here in the used section while you guys get your quality control together here. And this goes across to hardware. This goes in the music scene. The guys that I hear talking about problems with this, problems with that, it extends to hardware. It's not just guitars and pedals, but rack mount stuff. A lot of stuff, and we're not talking about cheap stuff either. We're talking about stuff that costs hundreds, in some cases, thousands of dollars that break down within the first, few weeks of use. And that's incredible. This one guy was talking about some piece that hardware that he bought for 3 grand, and it lasted about 4 weeks, he said, before the power supply blew up on it. And, my video camera lasted for about 8 years, 9 years before I had to finally put it here in the shop recently. I would consider that to be fantastic. I really would. I'm not when I put it in the shop, I wasn't mad because I got 9 solid week after week, month after month, year after year use out of that thing, and it didn't give me an issue. This Epiphone went year after year, week after week, month after decade, and didn't give its owner any issue. Bit of a case queen, like I said, other than the fact that the owner decided to scavenge the more expensive bits off of this and sell them separately. I'm not mad at him. It's all right. At least he kept the guitar itself in one good, solid, beautiful piece. So I can replace those parts. But the thing is, this thing has been trucking for almost 3 decades now. And so that's impressive. That's impressive to me. Whereas there's guys, like I said, will buy a new Strat and they'll have an issue with a short or something, or this, that, or another, or the nut not cut correctly, or the list of things. And that's just guitars. And again, an argument for buying a 20-year-old plus year old guitar over new. All right, where are we at? Oh, lovely. Good. Um, Change of gears. Complete change of gears. Um, Tonight's episode, before so we're at the halfway break here, just let me take the time to remind you guys, if you're watching this live right now, thank you so much for doing so. If you are watching this in the rerun, there's two things I'd like you to do. is first hit the like button. About on average, about 20%, maybe 21% of the people who watch my videos actually hit the like button. So if you do so, I would appreciate if you helped. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please, I'd like to invite you to do so. I am trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of this year. You know, it's amazing to me, you know, the YouTube videos that have hundreds of thousands of subscribers and those who don't. And I often wonder, you know, how YouTube is slowly turning into OnlyFans. Separate subject, but channels like mine, where I don't have anything titillating to show you other than the guitars and pretty cool ones. I guess in a way, some guys and girls that's is titillating is to me, but nothing salacious. So it takes a minute to build up. I don't pay for, so you know, you can pay to bump up your views. A lot of tricks and things that you can do. I never really wanted to do that. I thought to myself, if you build a nice channel, people will come and support it. So I'd like to ask you to support it. Get us to 5,000 subscribers by the end of this year. That would be fantastic. Now, tonight's title originally was, remember those guys who were buying music catalogs? How did that turn out? So I'm going to completely switch gears here in the second act of tonight's live stream and talk about a company called Hypnosis. And I want to, I meant to have queued up my song Down the Rabbit Hole because we're going to be going down a music industry rabbit hole tonight. You know, it's freezing here in Amsterdam. It's about 9 degrees tonight, and we're creeping up on the middle of June. I've got my heater on over here. It is freezing. So it puts me, this cold weather always puts me in a rabbit hole kind of a rabbit holey kind of mood. And we're gonna go down. And so I'm definitely in that mood tonight. So we're going to go down a music industry rabbit hole that a lot of people don't really talk about. Not widely, well, it was widely reported when it started, but the result of it, the fruit of it, is something that I'd like to talk about tonight. So there was a company called Hypnosis. There is a company called Hypnosis. Okay, let's back up. Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, a bunch of artists, you know, were coming out rallying against Spotify. You guys remember that? Neil Young in particular. I'll use him as a price. He was the most vocal and the loudest. Spotify is cheating musicians and it's not paying us, you know, or which they're not. I mean, there was nothing wrong about what he was saying. But he was using the rallying cry to musicians that composers, you know, whatever, that this company Hypnosis that's coming along is a better deal. And if you got anything that's worth two bits to these folks, we'll get to that what is worth it to these guys in a minute here. Then that's the way to go, Neil Young said, and that's the way I'm going to go. Doggone it! And of course, many artists: Shakira, Justin Bieber, now Rogers. List just Beyonce. The list just goes on and on and on and on. Who started jumping in on that bandwagon? They started saying, you know, Spotify is unfair, doesn't pay. Which, in Beyonce's case, her husband owns Tidal, which, you know, is anyway. I think just by the list of people that I named and Neil Young's arguments, on the face of it, you can tell that it was just a bunch of corporate bullcrap under the guise of a company called Hypnosis, which were being controlled by a company that you may not have heard of called BlackRock. I don't know if you're familiar with that BlackRock. You may have heard it. They were the real money behind Hypnosis. But the real total name of the company is Hypnosis Songs Fund Ltd. And it was run by a guy named Merchandise, Mercuriadis. Oh my God, Mercuriadis. I'm butchering this guy's name. Anyway, longtime music business manager type. His goal was to show up Spotify and dominate about 20% of the global market in terms of owning song catalogs. 20% of the global market. Now, in order to be of interest to Hypnosis, to go to a Neil Young and say, hey, you're not getting paid what Spotify really should be paying you. Let us buy your catalog from you. And it's a song by your songs, by the way, are of cultural endurance. Remember that one. And it was a significant hit that has held on through time. So these are the things that they told the artist, they told the shareholders, and the artists and the shareholders told other people that. And so this was it's an enduring hit and of cultural endurance. We're protecting the cultural heritage of these songs by buying these catalogs from these artists. Now, these artists had to be in the position, of course, to sell their catalogs. And if they were in a 50-50 split with a publishing company, which most of them probably were, they actually, if somebody said we're selling it for $10, they walked away with 5 in that kind of scenario. The figures were a lot more than that. By the way, guys like you and I need not apply because our music doesn't have any cultural endurance. In enduring longevity, because we're not part of the what is that George Carlin said? We're part of the club. It's a big club, he said, but you're not part of it. Yeah, no kidding. So Neil Young doing this for the artists, yeah, no, that does nothing for the rank and file a musician. But if you met this criteria, top 10 cultural endurance, then they bought your catalog. In the case of Justin Bieber, famously, he sold his catalog for $200 million to Hypnosis. Now, Hypnosis, in the purchasing of Shakira, Beyonce, Justin Bieber, our good friend Neil Young here, catalogs, were actually paying 15% above what market analysts said that those catalogs were worth. I believe the reason they were overpaying for them is just so that they get the headlines. If I'm Shakira and I'm sitting there, drinking my coffee in the morning and looking at the news headlines, and I see on Variety that Justin Bieber just got $200 million for his catalog, I'm on the phone to my manager saying, hey, you know, That'll buy a lot of margaritas and sunsets. And so it was a way of attracting other big name artists by overpaying. Um, they were hoping on drawing from three aspects of revenue that these catalogs normally produce: the mechanical royalties, which back in the old days, mechanical royalties really spoke to the process of creating an album, then later on CDs. And then somehow or other, although there is no machinery, plastic, vinyl, or anything else involved in the process, they still apply mechanical royalties to downloads. Which, if you're in a, by the way, a side note, if you're in a record contract, you get charged still for recruitment on mechanical royalties. Even though not a damn thing is they used to have also that was attached to that is breakage. Well, there was a certain amount of the albums that unfortunately got broke, so 10% of them got broken. So we're going to charge that back to the artist. They got to recoup that as well. They can't play that game anymore, but they still have the mechanical royalties tied to downloads. The next is performance fees, live fees, or live stage performances by the artist. Which again, if you're Shakira, Justin Bieber, you sold your catalog. The money from that is no longer going to you, but you're in partnership in a way every time you perform that with Hypnosis, is kind of the idea. That's how the partnerships. That's when Nile Rodgers was talking about his partnership with Hypnosis. The gist of that. One hand, uh, what is that? Shakes the other, or whatever, washes the other. Radio. So that's performance, and then of course sync fees, which is that's what I used to get paid. I used to get paid sync fees for the TV commercials that I would compose for. And these sync fees can be huge. Led Zeppelin was paid $10 million for the use of one of their songs in a TV commercial. So a lot of money. So they were anticipating the revenue from these three areas. Um, Merck went around telling people that the idea was quote unquote inflation proof. With Blackstone as a partner, they went on this buying spree, overbuying these catalogs. And that's about where the story ended for you and I. We heard all the hype and the hoopla. Oh, well, such and such sold his catalog, such she sold, he sold, all that. We heard those stories because the hype machine was being put out there to draw in investors, potential investors, and an artist to be enticed to, hey, again, I want my 20 million. And then it died off. You haven't heard anything about it. So what happened? How did that work out? Well, I've already told you that he was overpaying for these catalogs. So that in itself is just like, no. that's a now he was going around saying that this business model was inflation proof. And that's an interesting statement coming from the guy, the CEO of Hypnosis. Um, and he said this on CNBC. I was watching him talk. I found that interesting for him to say that because increased demand naturally leads to price inflation, right? Increased demand is something that he would want in this business model. So to make a statement something is inflation proof, he was thinking on the downside, but That proved that the statement itself showed to me that it was all talk. Again, that was talk. That was talk to bring in investors. Now, what happened? Royalty income fluctuates. It's not a steady $5, every week. It's five this week, two this week, 10 this week, none this week. It fluctuates. And so, therefore, it was a moving target in trying to estimate what their true revenue was. Coupled with the fact that they overpaid for these catalogs, they were in a deep, dark hole. Um, Now, they decided that one way of getting out of this hole, that self inflicted one, would be to sell um, 29 um, selected catalogs to for about a half a billion dollars to get revenue in, to get rid of the ones that they claimed were the froth of this group, although I don't see how any of it was froth. And it just so happened the ones that they wanted to sell it to was Blackstone. See where I'm going with this? Blackstone, this was this seems to be, or has the appearance of, or has the feeling of, not proved, of being a grab of assets and control of those assets by Blackstone going forward to how the music that you and I grew up is listened to. John Bond, welcome. BlackRock, yeah, those swell guys, the investment group, and control what we listen to, how it's available. If you control the catalogs, you control a lot there. And these it's different when the music guys were controlling, when the Universal Music of the world were controlling these catalogs, because they had a vested interest in some things that just so happened to align with the consumer. I don't see BlackRock as being, they have proven themselves to be that way in the past. These guys are knee deep in everything. That's not good. So how anything good come from this, I don't know. And the shareholders thought as well, because they realized that actually these not so great froth 29 catalogs were actually pretty sweet catalogs that BlackRock was trying to sweep up, and it would screw the shareholders out of a significant amount of revenue. So they vetoed that. They said, no, we don't want to do that. And um, that l- since then, their share price has dropped um, 20, to the point where it's lost a quarter of its value. So their share price has lost a quarter of its value and continued to sink. And this, of course, set them up for takeover. And guess who the principal lead potential buyer is? BlackRock. So you don't want to sell us those 29. Don't worry about it, fellas. We'll buy the whole friggin' thing, which they were running in the first place. And Hypnosis as a company may cease. One of the things that the shareholders want and demand is that as a company, it's no longer to be called Hypnosis and to be renamed and rebranded into something else. And where the shareholders still had controlling interest, it's not looking like that's going to happen. Who benefited? BlackRock certainly benefited. The artist, in my opinion, benefited, even though he had to split on, that 200 million. Justin Bieber can pretty much well cruise into his sunset. If he has any kids, which I believe he does, those kids will have wealth. It's generational wealth that he walked away with. If whereas if he counted on Spotify, his grandson would be taking orders at McDonald's. Oh, wait a minute, there won't be any of those either because the price of a Big Mac is $20. So the artist certainly benefited. BlackRock benefited. Did the consumer benefit? No, but we were never part of the consideration anyway, were we? This was all a sham, in my opinion. You know, it was all a way of BlackRock or an investment group to start getting into the music business and owning these catalogs so that they can control how it's used, how it's disseminated, because we don't have CDs anymore. If you don't have the CD of it and they decide, well, we're not going to put this out anymore, we're going to make this limited, then you don't have access to it. Or we're going to make sure we're going to cut Spotify out of this. There's just a lot of ways they can go with controlling a catalog. And they bought it. Hypnosis walked into the car dealership, bought the car new, drove it off the lot. It immediately depreciated. They drove it for a block, and then another guy came up and bought the car at a cheaper price with the depreciation taken out. That's what happened in that scenario. Okay, so BlackRock was able to and not assume any of the debt. House Dome Funk, welcome, sir. Evening, folks. Hope all is well in your corner of the world. Damn, Kiger's gonna buy up all the old Parker Fireflies, and I haven't got one. Isn't the Nightfly the cooler one with the extra knob? I am not familiar with Firefly guitars at all. Firefly guitars did not make it, even though they're an Asian guitar. I did not see them in Thailand. I didn't see them in Singapore. I didn't see them in China. I didn't see them in Japan or Korea. Hell, I didn't see them in Outer Mongolia, and I was actually there. Well, close enough. So I've never experienced a Firefly guitar. I've seen a lot of reviews on American guys' YouTube channels of those guitars, and I've heard only good things. But I would like to try one. Maybe one of these. But again, like I said, too many secondhand ones out there for me to be interested in, buying a new guitar. So that's kind of my feelings on that subject. Not that you asked. But yeah, check that out, man. So BlackRock is now the controlling interest. House Dumb Funk says, "Right on, brother. No worries. Still on the wish. Hey, it's on my Don't get me wrong. It's on my wish list. It's on my curiosity wish list because I've heard so many people say good things about him. It's like Harley Benton. Harley Benton has no presence in Asia whatsoever. It wasn't until I got here that I started hearing about Harley Benton. Now I've got one here behind my shoulder and another one in the back here as well. I've got two. And if Firefly was, so I'm not completely not buying new guitars. Well, these are 2 or 3 years old now. But at that time when I was in that kind of mode, Firefly was something that I wanted to get, but I just couldn't get it here. So it's on my curiosity list, like Harley Benton. And if I come across one, I would check it out for sure. No such thing as a bad guitar. There's only bad players. It's somewhat true. Somewhat true. But dig that, man. BlackRock did a sneak move there using a front, in my opinion, appearance of, looking like, of a company to sell a mantra of cultural, importance of these songs and preserving these for the artist's sake. How did that end up? Where did that end up? Who owns now? Cui bono. I always say that, man. Cui bono is the Latin for who benefits. It's something that Sherlock Holmes would often ask, along with his famous saying, if you limit out all the things that are possible and left with only, you're left with the improbable, and probably where you're closer to the truth there, starting at that point. I'm paraphrasing that, but that seems to be the case with this situation and hypnosis. Yeah, and the word, and the logo. By the way, if you guys have the time, look it up. Hypnosis. Their logo is a dead elephant. It is. It's an elephant upside down, laying on his back like in rigor mortis. I guess they're trying to say it's a hypnotized elephant, but why would it be, like this? So, you know, I always look for, these guys, man, the esoteric thoughts behind things are prevalent in everything. And sometimes they're, most times they are there. If you can look at that logo, you can tell it was trouble. just, just the way it looked. Look like this is not the logo that I would have chosen for my company. You can talk about hypnosis, do something that makes sense. A hypnotized or a dead elephant makes no sense. You could have had like a little squiggly line and it would have been a better logo than that. Unless you were trying to say something, again, esoterically with that logo. I don't put it past. I really don't, guys. Again, this is rabbit hole night. So I'm free to give my thoughts on that. I don't think there's anything out there that in one way or another doesn't tie back to esoteric stuff. I really don't. I'm starting to see that. The older that I get and the more I look into things. Again, the rabbit hole is deep. It has many, many, many rooms. And just dig that. I mean, I really question what it just what it seems like the program really was behind that. And again, we as consumers lose. It is not to our benefit. It is not to our advantage. It is not something that helps us and makes a bright, shiny future for our future listening pleasure. I guess if these guys own it and can dictate how it's used and where it's used, you know. A lot of guys who didn't want to sell their music to do sync licensing, a lot of artists back in the day, because they didn't want their music being used on a TV commercial. They said, I'm not using my music to sell, you know, laundry soap or or hygiene products. I'm not going to do it. And Prince was that way because he had a view of music, not just his music, but music in general, that was a lot deeper than that. And now BlackRock owns a lot of these tunes. And again, psychology talks about infantilism and how music from your youth is used in order to draw you back into a state of infantilism. And that's how marketing works. And how they get you to how they play on things in order to motivate you to do things. And these clowns at BlackRock now own a lot of music that can be used just so. So again, a rabbit hole tonight. What happened with all those catalogs that were being bought up? Well, the true villains behind the scene, reveal themselves. It ended up being Palpatine after all. How could we not see that? He was only smirking every time we walked out of the room. Oh God, this is a clown world. But if you have eyes to see, then it can be amusing. It can be sad, but it can be amusing too. All right, guys. Thank you for sitting through my live stream tonight and listening to this subject. Again, like I've said, tomorrow in the afternoon, I suppose I'll be filming a live stream with Record Dave. We're filming content with Record Dave that I'm sure he will post on his channel. The last one that we did, again, the sound was bad, he told me. So he said, let's do round two. And I said, fine. So you'll have that to look forward to on his channel. We'll be filming that with him tomorrow. I don't know what he's going to ask me. So I'm looking forward to that. He's always engaging. I found him to be an engaging interviewer the first time. So I'm looking forward to hearing his questions and sharing my thoughts and hearing some of his thoughts. Yeah. You guys take care. If that small amp comes in, I will film that on Friday and I will put that out as content because I never had a mini amp and I'd like to talk about it. It's fascinating to me. Hopefully, the Yamaha will be back from Fern so that I can film that and talk about that as well. I'd like to do part two of this Yamaha said to Epiphone Hold My Beer. There's actually a part two to that live stream that I'd like to film on my regular content. That was the plan. So hopefully Fern will get that done. Anyway, Seamus O'Brien, very interesting content. Mike, enjoyed it. Take care and see you next time. Thank you, guys. John Bond, thank you. House Dumb Phone, thank you. Seamus, thank you. Frederick Ben, thank you guys so much. And for everybody else who's going to watch this in the rewind, thank you so much. I'll talk to you guys on the next one. See ya. Bye-bye.